Hey dudes, it's your creator here, and I've turned on this option to join this button here, and I'd like to mess around and meme in games, always having a time, even when a game is completely unforgiving.
You okay? Wait, did you hear Xena the new time?
Yeah, fucking killed himself with it.
But as some have noticed, I've also started developing a game seriously too, so hopefully you join that journey. I'll publish short form posts about games that catch my eye from time to time in detail, or upcoming tech that I've noticed taking root in games and trends you can probably dodge on power walls or grinds or in MMOs you may or may want to put time in depending on your interests. Most of these I already talk about in general on Discord or other platforms or even here, but I'll refine them a bit more detailed and explained is why I'm opening up just this membership thing is because it's just an option if you want to provide support. Pretty serious about what I'm doing about game development now. I just took a trip to Hong Kong and I just recently got back, so it might take a little while for me to get back into rhythm before the next post. I was trying to do a post every 2 weeks at first, and it was still pretty intense. And then I went to Hong Kong, some things happened. Went on a long, relaxed vacation essentially. I wanted to open this up in the last video when I was doing the soul development reflection, and it seemed like that would have been a good place to do it, but I didn't think of it at the time, so here it is now. It's just an option. Don't worry too much. I'm just asking for support if you have any. If not, then don't worry about it. Everything will still be pretty much the same. It's just a little extra for those who want to grant like help. And in the past when I used to stream way more often, I spent that money on a tablet, which was part of a goals. And one of the fans, their name was Livu, provided like more than half of the donation to it, and that's pretty much what I use to make the character that's currently in play right now. So it is like in use. I've never really shied away from where people's input go. I've spent money, my own money, essentially on lessons and everything, on learning how to do stuff and trying to get this thing live as soon as possible. It's probably going to be like at least a year-long project at the minimum. Also for games, you guys know I've been running a channel always about games. I did sort of segue off into like food and vlogs and some things for the most part at one point, but I'm actually just reorienting the channel just straight into all games related. So hopefully you'll be along for that journey. Most of the time, since I'm not really playing any more new games at the moment, since I'm trying to divest more time into game development, is that I'm pretty much not playing new MMOs. For those who didn't really catch the pact that I made with myself when I started Lost Ark was that Lost Ark was like the last MMO I was playing after I quit BDO. So I went from like Vindictus, bunch of like other MMOs into like Black Desert, into like Lost Ark where we are now, and like Wuthering Waves. Those are like the only two games I play at the moment. I do play a bunch of single player games, and I do watch like new games coming out. Like I played Stellar Blade. I literally have a PS5 just to play Stellar Blade and FF7 Rebirth. I still haven't even gotten around to Resident Evil 4. I really want to do that tradition of where, like, there's a tradition on streaming that every time there's a new Resident Evil, I stream the whole game because it's just so fun, like playing Resident Evil, even if it's with like two or three of you. It's it's always a blast. But I really look forward to that, but I haven't just even made time to do that yet because I'm just trying to get back into the rhythm of creating the game again. And even like on my art journey, I started drawing again, and now I like draw periodically quite often. So I'm still doing that. I'll probably like share like another compilation reel when I have enough drawings to go at, since I'm not exactly drawing every day. I'm drawing like every other day. But yeah, so just that's why I'm opening up this option of membership. So it's just extra detailed posts that I will write about stuff. I'll priority read your comments in lieu of like new posts or whatever. I always read everybody's comments anyways in general, but if you're subscribed, I'll pay more attention to you obviously, and I'll probably like not wait a day or two and think about it. I'll probably respond right away. Like even like MMO strategies or stuff that all these games are like rat races in general, or like PvP MMOs, why I dodge them in general and why I do that. I'd be explaining more in those posts and stuff, or like writing about upcoming games that I find very very interesting, sort of like Tides of Annihilation right now, where Gwendolyn, the character design, looks fantastic. And like the trends between development companies that I see, because I'm kind of like ADHD, and I just like can't stop like looking at all sorts of things even though I'm trying to focus. And yeah, so pretty sure I have a high degree of insight among these things, because I've always played most games to like a very very top tier performance, even though I'm trying to like pull back and be a casual, but my hardcore blood just doesn't let it happen. So I don't know, like I'm trying to take Lost Ark like casually, since it's like the last MMO I'm playing, but I'm still like literally like max type book damage, like grinding 17 characters kind of thing, doing it all in one day or whatever, and not taking a whole week before weekly resets, getting like all 17, 18 raids done in one day on like hard mode, easy mode at the current bracket and everything, in like 5 1690s without swiping pay to win, RMT busts or any cheats or anything, just as like a literal legitimate player and a Puritan. So this it's just like the reputation I've always held myself as a standard. So I'm a pretty straight shooter. So, it's just, and then like, just adapting strategy and like approaches for different types of players, right? Whether you're hardcore or casual, it's like if I was like, just as an instance of like strategy in terms of like insight, if you're going into Lost Ark today, I'd be like, don't aim for hard mode current content, because you'll be met with tons of gatekeeping, annoying like party finder issues. But if you're trying to just aim to be at normal difficulty, at peak tier performance, you'll have a great time. Like you'll experience most of the game, you won't run into the frustrations of the game, and you'll generally like have a much easier time being accepted into parties as a pug with like nobody, like no statics or anything like created, or like any kind of socializing that you might have done yet. So, that's just like an example, right? And then it's like, oh, do you just do like one hard mode raid that takes you 6 hours, or you do a normal raid that takes you like 1 hour, and then you just go Guardian raids and nuke like dailies on multiple characters and make up the difference in gold in the same amount? But a lot of players don't think like this or do this, which I thought was obvious, but they don't. So it's like one of those BDO things when I made tutorials. I was like, oh, I thought this was straightforward for everybody. I thought everybody would be raking in tons of cash, but then they're not. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should make a tutorial about this. And then I did, and then that was like what I wanted to provide as value. But I feel like now that I've moved away from like the tutorial sense, I'm trying to move into the game development sense, because this is just like a skill that I never sharpened and I have. So it's like an unrefined talent that I never got out of myself. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going about it. So I don't really want to start any new MMO past Lost Ark up until this is done. So it's just like a personal goal of mine before I get old, and like also time is like short and I value it, and my health has never really been great. I clawed back at it for like nearly 10 years, and I'm kind of in a stable position where I'm at now, so it's why I'm going pretty hardcore at it at the moment. And I'm sort of mind swapped myself and switched like the MMO grind to game development, and treating game development like an MMO grind now. Because honestly, like trying to figure out Blender hotkeys, Unreal Engine, and like optimization workflows and like 9 different professions worth of like work is like dealing with Inferno hardcore mechanics, Hell Raid Redeemer style like level of grind with no guides available, and you're just going in blind. And yeah, it's kind of like the hardest thing I'm doing right now. So I think the journey will be pretty insane, and I hope you'll come along for it, whether you're a member or not. I'm just making this announcement video as more like an option. So don't feel too bad if you can't like support or anything. It's just an option. I just want to make that very clear. If you can support, very great. I really, really appreciate it. But I'm kind of running this on bare bones already. But anything will help, like, lift the load of weight off of me and will be greatly appreciated, of course. So, having years and decades of playing descriptive of more like combat feel and like impact impression the game would land on the player. These are all the things that like, I would feel on a game that I'm just looking to see if it's like a winner from the get-go. Sort of like the problem with like PvP MMOs that a lot of people always are attracted to the idea of a PvP MMO, for instance, but don't seem to understand that in a progression based PvP MMO, almost only the first people in who grind the hardest and also swipe the most get the most power and basically create like a vacuum monopoly. And if the game design sort of doesn't balance around scaling that down towards more like relative new players or like they limit the caps kind of thing or whatever, right? If it's a constant progression and there's no sort of like backup that pushes up new players or incentivizes the lower players to be closer to like the high end, there's no sustainability in that like player economy essentially for competition. And more often than not, most people don't have the willpower to be fighting like constantly on the losing side or like being the underdog on a server. So if you have like faction based stuff, one faction is always going to be stronger. There's almost like across so many MMOs I've seen that do like PvP MMOs, they almost always shut down in a span of like 5 to 10 years or like anything less than that. Is because like one side just gets all the vacuum of like all the players. It's like, oh, all the streamers went to here or whatever, and then you just have this giant like Zerg that just goes over to that side, and then the other side is obviously like seen as like, oh, this is the weak side, and then like nobody goes there. They almost lose like every battle, whatever, etc., etc. It's never like a great time for like the smaller players. Whereas like there's never really any balance that I see that's done in a game design sense that actually like shoves like extra power into the lower side to actually overwhelm like the winning side. So then there's actually very little PvP involved. It's mostly just like a political power scape of whoever has the most power, and that's it. They're not really like competing in any sense or fashion. You're really just playing pseudo politics at that point. So that's why generally I avoid PvP MMOs that are progression based and play like instance based PvP more often, like such as MOBAs like Dota 2 or like Marvel Rivals, Overwatch. Like those are all instance types PvP where your progression only lasts for the match and then it disappears afterwards and resets back to zero. And that's why those games have such long lifespans and so many players. It's the same concept that I just explained. So those are like sort of insights that I would be providing in like a post, because I did used to write review and articles for games at one point, for an MMO site at one point. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So other than that, like I'm really grateful that you're here, and when more of my own development comes out, I hope you'll join in that as well, whether if you're a member or not. I've still been on YouTube here, maneuvering life's challenges as usual. And it's just, I'm also in a more refined state where I'm kind of laser line focused on this next chapter. So until then, I'll see you next time. Peace.